So you started shooting Slog2. You've read all the forums, you've got really excited, you've watched a load of YouTube videos, but when you come to grade your footage, it ends up looking like this. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt too. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can turn the footage that looks like this into footage that looks like this. Or this. Or even this. Welcome back to Film It Friday. So shooting S-Log can be really daunting. It's really hard to get your exposure right, it's hard to get your focus spot on, and it's really hard to process. But I promise you it's worth it. You'll get a better image at the end of the day. You'll be able to make any video look like a cinematic film. So when I started using S-Log and trying to color grade, what I was doing were two steps. I was color correcting my footage, and then I was chucking a LUT on top of it. I was missing out a step. And I would imagine quite a lot of you are missing out this step as well. So, the three steps when you come to color grade Slog2 footage. Firstly, you need to color correct your footage. This needs to happen before you color grade your footage. Now, color correction is very different. Color correction is sorting out things like your white balance, your exposure, your highlights, and your shadows. Step 2 is converting your S-Log footage to Rec 709 footage. Another term that I never really understood. Why would you want to convert your S-Log footage to something called Rec 709? So what is Rec 709? Rec 709 is a universal color space that's used by the world over. If you were shooting on your A7S or your Canon 5D Mark II and you had no picture profiles running, then your cameras would be shooting in Rec 709. This is good if you're shooting a vlog or something that doesn't require very much post work, but it's not very good if you want to be capturing those highlights and those shadows because it boosts the contrast and saturation in camera, and we want to be doing that in Premiere. So there's a really handy conversion tool online that I'm going to show you, and it will convert your S-Log footage to Rec 709 perfectly every single time, and then you can start adding your LUTs on top of that. I didn't realize there were two types of LUTs. There are LUTs that convert your log footage into Rec 709 footage and any other kind of color space that you want to go to, and there are creative LUTs that you add on top. So in Premiere you've got two spaces to add LUTs, and I never really understood this, and that's because the first space is for correction LUTs and the second space is for creative LUTs. So let me give you a little example of this. Currently we're in log, now we're in Rec 709, and now we've got a creative LUT applied to that Rec 709. So the next step is adding your creative LUT on top of your footage, and there are loads of different sites online. There's a few that I really like. There's Lutify Me, there's Osiris, and there's Impulse. I will put the links in the description. I downloaded a load of these LUTs and I just scrolled through them until I found a couple that I liked. It's really nice because it is now like I thought it would be. It's just like adding a filter on top like you would on Instagram, and you can get amazing looks like this. Let's head over to the computer and I'll show you exactly how to do it. So now that we're in Premiere, I've selected a piece of Slog2 footage. This is completely untouched. It's as it came out of the camera. It was shot at 3200 ISO. It was the correct exposure. It wasn't over by 2 stops. I believe you can do it over by 2 stops if you want even more dynamic range, but this seems to work absolutely fine for me. I would make sure you're in your color space within Premiere, and I would have the parade and waveform on. These are the two tools that I use to correct my color. So the first thing we want to do is actually correct it so it looks somewhat normal. So this parade kind of gives me an indication of where my exposure is. So at the moment it's all quite low, it's not very contrasty, there's not very many highlights, and there are quite a lot of shadows. So the way you control this is with your exposure tools. So if I adjust my exposure, you can see it all changes, and I'll show you what it should look like by the end of it. So what we want to do is get these highlights around 90, and we want to get these shadows just below 10. That's where I like it, but it is personal preference. You put it wherever you want to put it. So we're going to boost our exposure a little bit to get those highlights into 90. We're going to bring up the blacks ever so slightly. And I'm going to add a little bit of contrast so it just stretches that waveform ever so slightly, and you'll get a better looking image. I'm just going to bring those blacks up again just so they're around 10. say you'd shot this in the wrong white balance and your image was looking like this, you can see the blue is much higher in the highlights and in the shadows, and your red is kind of compressed. And I have this sometimes, even if I'm shooting in the right white balance, it does seem to do this for me. So all you need to do, and this is really, really simple, I didn't realize how easy this is, you just need to balance those colors back out. And say it looked like that, you just need to adjust the white balance and make that RGB parade all even, so you've got red, green and blue, and as even as you can possibly get them, and then you're ready to go. So now our image is roughly color corrected, but we can come back to it at the end if we want to make any fine adjustments. So the next thing you need to do is head over to this website which I found out about recently. It's called LUT-Calc, and it'll basically make you a conversion LUT, so you can go from your S-Log footage to your Rec 709 footage really, really simply. You can set all the settings that you had on your camera, and it's going to export as a LUT that you add to your footage, and then your footage will be in Rec 709. So just for an example, I'm going to take you through the basic settings. So I've got the Sony FS5 stop correction, so if you were shooting 2 stops over, you would put that in there, but I wasn't. We've got S-Log3, I was shooting S-Log2. This is the record gamut, so that's what I was recording in, and we want to output that as Rec 709. Rec 709, there it is. And I would just leave that the same. You can go into more detail with the settings, but that seems to work absolutely fine for me. So I'm just going to click Generate LUT. It's going to ask you where you want to save it, so just save it wherever you want. Navigate back to Premiere, and you're going to go for your input LUT, and we're going to browse. So you get these already. So what these do are exactly what we're trying to do. So if you were shooting on the Alexa, it would go from the Alexa default log format to Rec 709. So that's what we're trying to achieve. So you just want to browse to wherever you saved your LUT that you've just downloaded, open it up, and as you can see, everything's a little bit more poppy, a bit more contrasty, and a little bit more saturated. You can see on our scopes now that it's peaking a little bit, so we're just going to bring that back down. So we're just going to bring our highlights down a little bit. We're going to bring our tint down just so it matches. And that looks like quite a good image to me. My face is probably slightly overexposed. I'm just going to bring that exposure down a little bit. And there we go. So we've gone from this to that. So you've done your basic color correction, you've done your conversion from log to Rec 709, and you're ready to add your filter. You're ready to add your Instagram filter. That's the way I look at it. And if you come down here, you can see that I've actually got quite a lot of filters. I don't know why they're going off the screen. We've got loads. I downloaded them from lutify.me, and I'm going to make a separate video showing how you import them into Premiere, because it's a little bit of a faff. It's not very straightforward. Well, it is straightforward, but it's not very well known, so I'm just going to make a video on that shortly. And then you can just scroll through your looks on here like you would in Lightroom, and you can pick any that take your fancy. The only problem with this solution is that when you click a LUT, it actually takes you right back to the beginning. It doesn't carry on going. So if I like the look of, I quite like the look of that, so I click that, and now this is right back at the start. So I have to go all the way through the LUTs again. But that's not a big issue for me, because at least I can see them. I can see what they're going to do to my image. Quite like that one. It's a little bit too contrasty. Black and white. I really like the black and white LUTs with Lutify Me. It's not just desaturating the image, it's making it look really nice. There's lots of film style effects. There's lots of instant film effects, vintage effects. So this is a LUT that I really like. It's called Lakelandite, and it's a teal and orange, your standard teal and orange look, and it works perfectly after you've done your color correction. So this process has really helped me out. It's given me a bit more confidence when I'm shooting in S-Log2. I hope it's helped you out as well. Like I said at the beginning, If you've got any questions at all, please fire them over. I'm by no means an expert in color grading, but I feel like I've got a good grasp on it now, and I'm definitely going to be shooting Slog2 in the future. Okay, so I am going to be showing you how you can add your creative LUTs into the creative section of Premiere in a future video, so please stay tuned for that. If you like the video, please like it and subscribe so you never miss another episode of Film It Friday. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.